Greetings, dear students. In this video session, we are going to learn about the production of antibodies in vivo as well as in vitro. In the previous sessions, to refresh your learning, we had learned about different classes of antibodies, their structural and functional aspects, and the different types of antigenic determinants present on antibody molecules. In this session, we will see how antibodies are produced both in vivo and in vitro. Antibodies are protein molecules produced by a type of WBC, namely the B cells or the B lymphocytes. These protein molecules have the unique ability of recognizing specific proteins and interacting with them. It is due to this ability that antibodies are capable of identifying and neutralizing toxins and pathogens, thereby offering protection to the individual. It is due to the same ability that antibodies have become highly useful in various applications like detection of proteins, receptors, enzymes, diagnosis of diseases, and in therapeutic strategies for diseases like cancer. The genes coding for different polypeptide chains of the immunoglobulin molecule are actually located on different chromosomes. After transcription and translation of these segments, the polypeptide chains are assembled to give rise to a functional immunoglobulin molecule. Also, in the germline DNA, multiple gene segments that encode portions of a single immunoglobulin, heavy or light chain, are present, which means, considering the light chain, there are several segments that can code for the variable region of the light chain. Similarly, there are several gene segments that can code for the J region of the light chain. And in case of the light chain, there is a single segment that codes for the constant region domain of the light chain. These different segments have to be brought together by gene rearrangement and splicing so that they can undergo transcription, giving rise to a functional mRNA. During this rearrangement, out of the many gene segments that code for the variable region, one is retained in each cell and the others are eliminated by splicing. Similarly, out of the several segments that can code for the J region, one is retained and the others are spliced away. By such rearrangement and splicing, the V, J, and C regions of the gene are brought together and rearranged. Now, such rearranged DNA can undergo transcription, giving rise to a functional mRNA, which then undergoes translation, giving rise to a functional polypeptide chain. Similar rearrangement happens with the heavy chain genes also. Now, due to this type of rearrangement, which is seen only in case of B cells, that the immune system is capable of generating the vast diversity seen in the antibody molecules. Though each antibody molecule has a single antigenic specificity, the immune system is capable of producing millions of such antibody molecules which can recognize millions of specific and complementary antigens. Now, this process of gene rearrangement occurs in the bone marrow during B cell maturation. The generation of antibody diversity involves a different phenomena like gene rearrangement in the variable region, VJ or VDJ rearrangement and combinations, presence of multi-gene families, allelic exclusion, and junctional flexibility, which almost bring about 10 power 6 combinations of antibody molecules. And this diversity is further multiplied by subsequent processes like N addition, P addition, class switching, and somatic hypermutation. A B cell which has completed this process of rearrangement is considered as a mature B cell. Such a B cell becomes capable of producing a functional antibody molecule. A mature B cell synthesizes functional antibody molecule. Each B cell can synthesize antibody molecules with identical and single specificity. So this antibody molecule is displayed on the surface of the B cell, and such B cells are called as mature naive B cells. Several such clones of B cells are produced in the bone marrow, and then they are released into the circulatory system of the vertebrate host. Such mature naive B cells then keep circulating in the body of the host or stored in the secondary lymphoid organs, that is the spleen, lymph nodes, or the lymphatic tissues. When any of these B cells among the vast repertoire of B cells become activated due to interaction with complementary antigens, they undergo antigenic stimulation. And such a B cell undergoes proliferation, giving rise to a memory B cell and plasma cell. The memory B cells come into action later during subsequent exposure to the same antigen. They are stored in the body for future use. They also display a membrane bound antigen, antibody. The plasma cells, which are quite large in size compared to the mature naive B cells, do not display a membrane bound antibody anymore. They carry a vast network of this rough endoplasmic reticulum in their cytoplasm, which enables these cells to synthesize large amounts of protein. As such, these cells can synthesize millions of antibody molecules, which are then secreted into the circulatory system and protect the host against toxins and pathogens. In vivo, the antibodies are involved in processes like viral neutralization, toxin neutralization, pathogen elimination by various processes like antibody dependent cell mediated cytotoxicity, complement activation, and so on. Because of their unique ability of recognition of specific proteins, antibodies are also very much useful in designing treatment strategies for cancer, in passive immunotherapy, in developing diagnostic procedures for various diseases, and in case of experimental isolation and purification of proteins. As such, there is a large scale requirement for commercial production of antibodies. Commercial production of antibodies can be done in two modes, that is, in vivo and in vitro. In vivo production of antibodies involves the use of laboratory or experimental animals for the production of antibodies. Direct immunization of these experimental animals by injection of antigens is the conventional method. This injection of antigens or immunization varies with respect to the dosage, the number of injections, and the booster dose given to the experimental animal. Sufficient time is allowed for the experimental animal to develop a strong and sufficient immune response, after which the blood from the animal is isolated either with or without sacrificing the animal, and from this blood, serum is separated and antibodies are purified. In vivo production of antibodies also involves injection of hybridoma cells into the ascitic fluid of the animal, where these cells develop into ascitic tumors. Later, the animal is sacrificed, the ascitic tumor cells are isolated, and antibodies are purified from the ascitic fluid. Purified antibodies produced by any of these two methods in vivo can be used for passive immunotherapy and for many other research or industrial applications. The major advantage of this method, that is the in vivo antibody production, is that it allows for glycosylation and other post translational modifications of the produced antibody molecules, which are not possible in case of microbial cultures. But the major disadvantage here is it involves many bioethical issues. It is quite painful to the laboratory animal, and depending on the requirement, many animals may need to be used. It also involves many ethical issues. To overcome this, the in vitro production of antibodies is generally adopted. In vitro production of antibodies involves the use of specialized cells called as hybridoma cells. Hybridoma cells are fusion products of antibody producing B cells and immortalized myeloma cells. Myeloma cells are a type of B cell cancer cells. B cells directly can't be used for production of antibodies in vitro because they fail to grow in culture continuously due to their short or limited lifespan. This hybridoma technique was invented by Kohler and Milstein in 1975, and for this revolutionary discovery, they were awarded the Nobel Prize in the year 1984 for the field of medicine and physiology. Since then, this procedure has been several times refined and revised and has been widely used for the production of antibodies in vitro. This technique, that is a hybridoma technique, involves the formation of hybrid antibody producing cells by electrofusion of immunized mouse spleen cells and mouse myeloma cells. Instead of mouse, any other experimental animal can also be used. These are the major steps in the production of monoclonal antibodies, which involve immunization of a mouse or any other experimental mammal, isolation of the B cells from the spleen of the immunized animal, parallel cultivation of the myeloma cells of the same species, followed by fusion of the myeloma cells and the B cells, separation of these cell lines, screening of suitable cell lines which produce antibodies of required specificity, followed by in vitro and in vivo multiplication of the selected cells and harvesting of the monoclonal antibodies. Let us have a look at this procedure in a little more detail. The antibodies produced by hybridoma technique are termed as monoclonal antibodies because they generally are of a single antigenic specificity and are produced by a clone of the same B cells. This method for producing large numbers of identical antibodies involves or begins with the immunization of an experimental mammal like mice or a rabbit. So, these animals are first exposed to the antigen against which an antibody has to be generated. After the schedule of immunization, sufficient time is allowed for the animal to develop a strong and sufficient immune response, after which the splenocytes are isolated from the mammal's spleen. Parallelly, tumor cells or myeloma cells of the same species are kept under culture. It is important that these cultured myeloma cells are negative for the HGPRT gene, that is, the hypoxanthine phosphoribosyl transferase gene. Such HGPRT negative myeloma cells are then fused with the splenocytes in the presence of polyethylene glycol or by electrofusion. The mixture of cells obtained after the fusion process includes several types of cells, that is, unfused B cells, unfused myeloma cells, then products of fusion of multiple cells, and the hybridoma cells also. Hybridoma cell is that cell which is formed by a fusion of single B cell and a single myeloma cell. Among this mixture of cells, it is important that only the hybrid cells are selected and allowed to grow. This is done with the help of a selection medium, generally referred to as the HAT medium. The HAT medium stands for hypoxanthine, aminopterin, and thymidine. Aminopterin in the media blocks de novo pathway of DNA synthesis. As such, the myeloma cells fail to synthesize DNA by the de novo method. Unfused B cells in the mixture anyway cease to survive because of their short lifespan. The unfused myeloma cells cannot synthesize DNA because aminopterin is present in the media and blocks the de novo synthesis of DNA. The myeloma cells, being HGPRT negative, fail to synthesize DNA by the salvage pathway also. So, in that mixture of cells, only the hybrid cells become capable of synthesizing DNA since they gain the HGPRT gene, which is functional, from the B cell part of the hybridoma cell. Products of multiple cell fusion cease to survive and continue to grow due to genetic instability. As such, the HAT medium allows selection and survival of only the hybridoma cells. Once the selection process is done, the incubation medium is diluted in such a manner that only one cell is present in each of the well of a multi-well plate, which means the antibodies in each well are produced by the same B cell and will be directed towards the same epitope and are thus monoclonal antibodies. These B cells clones are then screened rapidly to select only those hybridomas that produce antibodies of required and appropriate specificity. The techniques that generally are used for screening include ELISA, immunocytochemical analysis, Western blot, and immunoprecipitation mass spectrometry. Once the selection is done, the hybridomas are cultured in vitro in a laboratory scale or a large scale using different methods, and antibodies are purified. Different types of bioreactors can be used for large scale multiplication of such selected hybridomas, which involves various strategies like the static and agitated cell suspension culture systems. Here, plastic cell culture equipment like tea flask, roller culture, and spinner cultures can be used. Tea flasks are a method of stationary culture, whereas roller and spinner cultures provide for agitation of the medium. This facilitates proper aeration and nutrient supply to the cells being cultured. Starter tank bioreactors of even up to 2000 liters can be employed for the culture of such selected hybridoma cells. Improvised methods like membrane based and matrix based culture systems are also used for culture of selected hybridoma cells. The advantage here is that the cultured cells are separated from the nutrient media by a highly permeable membrane or matrix system. This allows for easy separation of the cells from the media once the production of antibodies has been successfully achieved. Further advanced systems like hollow fiber bioreactors facilitate separation of the cells without any kind of damage to the cells and facilitate easy purification of the produced antibodies. The produced antibodies have to be isolated and purified before they can be used for the target purposes. In case of in vivo production, antibodies are secreted into the ascitic fluid or the blood of the experimental animals. And in case of in vitro production, they are secreted into the cell culture medium. In either case, larger debris, which includes dead and broken cells, is first removed by centrifugation followed by filtering. The filtrate is then further purified by methods like precipitation, ion exchange chromatography, affinity chromatography, or hydrophobic interaction chromatography. All these methods allow high quality of purified antibodies, which are then used for various target purposes, including disease diagnosis, therapy, targeted antibody therapy, so on. So, to summarize, we discussed the antibody production in animal or human body, the different modes of antibody diversity generation in vivo, the methods available for antibody production, that is in vivo and in vitro methods, and the hybridoma technique, which is useful in the production of monoclonal antibodies. You can refer to these references for further and deep learning of the concepts. Thank you.